Hello, welcome to this JavaScript crash course. So the reason I'm actually bringing out this JavaScript crash course is because we want to start automation in our API testing. And the honest truth, I said earlier that we're going to, the automation in the Postman is going to be JavaScript language that we'll be using to automate our APIs in the Postman. So the fact is, for you to actually understand what I'm doing, for you to actually understand what is going on, you sincerely have to have a brief understanding of JavaScript. That is the reason I'm coming up with this crash course. It's not going to be really much in depth, but I promise you that if you need to get your hands, to just get the knowledge of what JavaScript is all about, this course is going to be the best for you. In fact, if you want to start JavaScript and you don't know anything about JavaScript before now, after this course, you're going to understand everything that you literally need to know about JavaScript, so on the basic, and then we'll still be doing, of course, we're going to do project at the end, that a little mini project that will keep your hands dirty. And of course, as I'm explaining, we'll be writing some codes to actually, it's not going to be theory or true. So this course is really going to actually help you to get started with JavaScript. So once again, welcome to this JavaScript crash course. So let's quickly dive in and see what we have here. Introduction to JavaScript. So as you can see here, JavaScript is a versatile and widely used programming language. It is primarily used for creating interactive and dynamic content on web page. And not just that, it allows you to add functionality to websites, control the behavior of web browsers, and create web application. Now, what that actually means is, of course, we know that the first is your HTML, and then followed by CSS, and then you can now learn JavaScript um, and any other language that you want. But the thing is, HTML, what the difference between these three now? HTML create the basic structure for your website. Of course, you use your HTML to create your basic structure for the website, and then CSS add style, to them. If you understand HTML and CSS, you know pretty well what I'm talking about. You use CSS to add style to the HTML structures they've already created, and then JavaScript now take all of that, and make it interactive and give it more functionality, just as we have said here. It allows you to add functionality to your website, and then it controls the behavior of the web browsers and create web applications. So this is actually an introduction to JavaScript. That's all you just need to know for now about JavaScript. The honest truth is that JavaScript is not really that difficult. That's the honest truth. It's just you understanding what you have to do at the right time. So let's go to the next slide. Tools to install on our JavaScript. Now, if we're actually going to work on this JavaScript, we need these tools. Of course, the first is your Chrome browser. You need to have a Chrome browser. Then we need to have this Node.js installed, and you need Git, and then you need Visual Studio Code Editor. These are the tools. These four tools are the tools we're going to use to actually do carry out our work on JavaScript. Okay, so at this moment, we download our Chrome browser. So enter Chrome browser. Chrome download. So you can just get it, Chrome download. Yeah, so you can download this. Click on this first one. So you're going to have this, right? So all you don't need to do is to click on this place, and then it will download. So you just get to download here. Once you click on it, it's going to download for you. So, but I'm not going to install it because I already have it. So I'm just going to cancel this. So now the second one is Node.js. So just here we'll put no download. Still the same. You just come to this node.js.org, nodejs.org. So you click and you're going to have it. So this for Windows, for Mac. So whichever one you're using, you click and then download. And the installation is quite easy. All you just need to do is to follow next, and all that. So close that. The next one is Git. Enter Git, and then you get this. You can see the website. So same process here. If it's for Mac, you click here. For Windows, for Linux. So if you're using Windows, like as I am doing, you just click here. You click on this, and then you select. If you're using 32 bits, then you select this. If you are using 42 bits, then you select the standalone. So that's it for Git. Okay, the next, the last but not the least, is VS Code. So VS Code download. Let's close this. So you can have Visual Studio Code. You just open it up. Yeah. So there's it. You click on this one. It's going to download for you. So that's it. But I'm not going to download it. I'm not going to download it because I already have it. So I'm going to close this. And the installer too, when you are installing, all you just need to do is to click next, 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 and all that. So that's pretty much the tools we'll be using for the download. Okay, so I want to believe that you finish those installations. They're quite pretty easy. So I just want us to move faster. And the next now is our VS Code setup. We have to set up our VS Code, which you have installed. So the first thing we're going to in the list here is we're going to get our live server, then get prettier bracket per colorizer, file and folder icon. So you just follow me if you really don't understand what they do. I will explain along the line what they do. So they are just extensions that we're going to that will make our work easier while we are running our codes on Visual Studio Code. So let's go to our VS Code and set them up. So you're going to have this. Just close this. Now this is where you have your setup extension, right? This is where you set them up. You get the extensions here. So the first is the live server. So you just type live server. So this is it here. You just click. I've already installed it, so that's why you're seeing uninstall. Instead of saying this on yours now, because you've not installed it, you're going to see something like this install. So just click on that install, and that's it. It will install. Now the second we're going to install is Prettier. Yeah, Prettier. So this actually helps to format. Sorry, for the live server, the what the live server does is that as you are actually running your code, right, it will be giving you automatic updates. You don't need to go to your browser and refresh, or yeah, you don't need to go and refresh before you get the update. So the live server actually helps you to automatically gives the update to your web browser. So that is what the live server does. And this one actually helps you to format your code, right, as you are working on VS Code. Just mine, I've already installed it. Click on the install and it will install. Now the next is the So this is actually deprecated and is already built into the current VS Code. So if you just installed your VS Code, you don't need to be troubled. This is already built in and it's set to true by default. So let's check that out. So let's copy this and then we'll go to settings and enter this. So color customization, you see the edit. So you can see that everything is already set to true. So if in yours, they're not set to true, please just set them to true here. Then there's something I still want us to set to true. Here, let's look at word wrap. So this word wrap, what it does is when you're writing your code and your code is actually longer, so the code will run, the code will just keep running and you have to be scrolling up and down. But with word wrap, when you set word wrap to on, it automatically breaks it. Once you get to the end, it breaks the word and continue from the next line. So please set this to true. So let's close. Now the last we're going to put here is file and folder icon. So this actually helps to give icons when you are creating your file and your folder. So just as others, click install, you're going to see something like this install. I've already installed it. So that's it for setting up our VS Code. Okay, so let's click here to continue. So here, because we have not opened any folder or file, so we'll just click here, open a folder. Now we can create a folder. Go to anywhere you want to create the folder. If you want to create it, listen, I just feel like creating it in my document, so you can as well create it in your document. But if you want to create it in your desktop, here you can create it in your desktop, so you could have easy access to it. So I'm creating mine in the document, and here you see new folder. If you don't see this new folder, right click, and then you go to new and folder. So you can name it JS crash course. Good. So this is the folder I want to open. Just and then select the folder. Perfect. So we've opened the folder. It's going to ask you if you trust this folder. Yes, I do. I trust the author. So close this. So let's create our files. When you take your mouse, hover your mouse to this place, and you see that this way you can create your file. This is for folder, right? So just click on this. You see new file. So we're going to call this index.html. Now here, I want you to hit the exclamation mark. That will be Shift 1. Give you the exclamation mark, and then press your tab, and this is going to come up from your index.html. This is quite small. Let's go to setting and increase the font. So this is where you have your font. I'll put mine 22, so it could be visible enough. Yeah. So perhaps I could make it 26. Perfect. So I can close this. So on your title, we'll change this to JS Crash Course. So having done that, let's come to the body, and then we're going to have our header. In the header, we're going to have H1. That's our heading. And our heading is going to be so to actually see what we're doing, this is where that live server comes in. You see here, you see go live. So just click it and you're going to see your web browser pop up. So mine has popped up. You can see JavaScript crash course. So I would like to minimize this, so and also minimize this, so we could have both on the same screen. So I'll move this one here. Perfect. So whatsoever we're doing here, we could be saying it here. So if you change this now to let's just add 2 and save, you see it automatically shows here, right? So you don't need to come here and refresh. That's the beauty of live server. So we'll delete this too. Once you save, you see it taking place immediately. Good. So the next file we're going to create here is a JS file. Remember that this course is not on HTML, so that's why I'm not actually explaining any of this. So we're going to create our JS file where we'll be working. So let's just create the file. So we'll call this main.js. So for now, nothing is going to be here because we have to come and link this file to this place. So what we need to do is to come under this body. You can just come under the body and put a script, and then we'll put source. Sorry. So we have main. So that's it. So whatsoever we type here now is going to show on this place. So let's say alert. Then once you see it showing here, alert, so it's popping up the alert, hello world. So, but that's not actually what we want. So we want to actually work with the console. And for us to actually work with the console, we have to come here and get our console. For you to do that, on Chrome, you right click and get inspect. So once you hit inspect, so this is your console, right? So we can make the console to go down. So by default, yours might be down, mine is here by default. So you just click dock to bottom. So yeah. So the code we'll be writing for now, we'll be seeing it on the console. Of course, on this console, you can actually write JavaScript code too. So let's say our console.log. Same hello world. What? Sorry. Now I'm going to see it here. Hello world. So this error here is Chrome console error. So that has nothing to do with us. But on a second thought, we can, what we are getting here on this console, we can also get an extension that will be giving us everything on our VS Code. So we don't even need to come to this console. We just have to do all our code and get our result on VS Code. So let's go to extension and actually install this code runner. So I think I've already entered it. So you have code runner. So you have it installed. You're going to say install, just install it. And then what happens is you're going to see this button that is for run, for you to run your code. So once you've done this, all you need to do, or either you come here and click here, or you can right click and then click on, let's go back to Explorer. So you can right click and click on run code. So you have your code run. This is hello world. I think this is better. So instead of us navigating from VS Code to Chrome, let's just have everything on our VS Code. So the next is commenting. Of course, take note of this, that when you finish writing your code, you put this semicolon. Of course, just like your normal English, when you finish making your sentence, writing your sentence, you put full stop, right? When you are done writing your code, you put semicolon. So the next is going to be commenting in JavaScript. So what do we actually mean by comment? Um, Comment is actually used to explain code and make it more readable. So you use it to explain your code. Now, what happens in commenting is that when you comment a word, it's not going to run. So, but if you don't comment it out, that word is going to run and is your code is starting error because you didn't actually mean it to run, right? So for JavaScript, your comment is double slash. So once you have this double slash, anything you type on this line is going to be a comment. So let me just type here, this is comment, right? Now, if we run this, let's clear here. This is where you clear. So if we run this, click this button, you see this statement is not being seen by the code. So that's pretty much on commenting. So let's quickly move into variables in JavaScript. So as you can see here, see that JavaScript variables are simply containers for storing data. Of course, what we use them to do is to store data. And this data can be numbers, they can be strings, they can be objects, functions, and so on. So variables can be declared in either of these three ways. You can use var to declare variable, you can use let, you can use const. But now, we no longer use var because var actually have some um consign, some issues. So in excs, these two were introduced, let and const. Of course, I'm going to show us the error that is prone with var. I think that when we get to function, but for now, we're going to be writing our code with const and let. So we'll be declaring our variable here. Now we use let or const. Now, at what time should I use let and at what time should I use const? Of course, this stands for constant. So by ordinarily, when you want to declare variable, by default, you should use const, except that you know that that variable is going to be reused, going to be reassigned, then you can use let, right? So constant, of course, is going to be fixed. It's not going to be changing. So once you know that you're declaring a variable that you are going to be calling once, you are not going to be changing the value, then you can use const. Otherwise, you use let. So let's declare our variable and say const. And by declaring a variable, you have to give the variable a name. So let's say this is greeting. Equal, what are you assigning this greeting to? We'll say hello world. Now, when I want to console.log hello world, as we've always done before, I'm not going to say console.log hello world anymore. I will now say console.log greeting. So what I've just done here now is I've assigned this variable to this hello world. So I no longer need to come here and say console.log hello world. Once I console.log this greeting, I'm going to get this output because this value here is already what this greeting is assigned to. So let's run our code and see. We're going to see get hello world because this variable has been assigned to hello world, right? Now, like I said earlier, having assigned this to hello world, I can't come now down and then change the value of greeting. I can't come back again and say greeting equal something like good day. Now, if I run this code, because what is happening here now is that I have reassigned greeting from hello world to good day. So if I run this code, I'm going to get an error. That's it. So now it's telling me greeting equal good day, which ought not to be. So if you know you're going to reassign a variable, then you change it to let. But now let's just change this to let and see if we're going to get an error. Let's clear this up because we save. So first of all, let's comment this out. For you to get this comment, to comment a single line, just hold your control and then the question mark, your slash forward slash. That way, comment and uncomment, right? That's a quick way of commenting and uncommenting. So I've commented this now. I said let greeting equal hello. Once we run this, we're going to get hello world. And now I've now reassigned greeting. That's see, I no longer want greeting to be hello world, but it should be good day. Now let me run this again. I'll save. And when I run this, I now get good day. You see, because this let allow you to reassign variables. So because I've now reassigned this greeting to good day, it now gives me good day, no longer hello world. So this is just the difference between let and const. So you use const when you know that that variable cannot be reassigned, and you use let when you know that you can reassign the value. Of course, as we move on, you see where examples where you have to reassign value to variables, and of course where you don't have to do that. Okay, so let's go to our next slide to see what we'll be looking at next. Okay, fine. So we're going to look at data types next. So our data types here, you see, these are the ones we'll be looking at. We have strings, we have number. Of course, when we talk about string, it has to be a text. And when we talk about number, it has to be an integer 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, or true to 9. And then we'll look at Boolean. Boolean is either true or false. So there are sometimes you need, when you have scenarios that are actually requiring true or false, that is Boolean. Then for objects, I'm going to give you an example of object. So let's look at our VS Code. So I put this on comments, data types. So first we'll look at string. We could say, could declare this variable, say greetings equal hello world. Now this is a string. Another age equal 25. This is a number. Now the next one is Boolean. So we could look at and say um, is adult. Now this is going to give us true or false. Of course, you are not expected to get anything more than true or false. Is this person an adult? This person that is 25 years, is this person an adult or not? So this is going to be true. So this data type is Boolean. Now the next is object. Now let's look at a person object. So I'm going to declare this variable and say person. Now for this person, I want to get the name of this person. I want to get the age, and then I want to get the maybe the sex of the person. So we can say name. Name is string John Doe. Then age, we'll say is 25. And then is this person a male or female? This also is, let's say the person John Doe is a male. Now, this is an object. So we'll say this data type is an object. So we'll put here object. So when you look at this, I believe that this is self-explanatory. So also this too. So let's throw more light on this object. So when you look at an object, right, you are kind of not giving just a single value to the variable. Let's assume that for like what we have here now, the person, right? I could just say the person is John Doe. So in such a situation, I wouldn't say that that is an object because I did not put more information about that person. Now I've given a name, John Doe, the age, and the sex. Now let's look at car, for instance. And I give this variable car. I say is a Toyota, right? Now if I console.log this Toyota, or sorry, if I console.log car, what am I going to get? So if I run this, I'm going to get Toyota, right? But supposing I want more information about this car, okay, I want to put it in a variable car, and I said, give me the car name, um, the model, the the color, right? And I want all that to be in the variable car. What am I going to get? That at the end of the day becomes an object. It's no longer a string, right? This can just be seen as a string. But when I now need more information embedded in that same variable car, then assigned to that car variable, then that becomes an object. So if at the end of the day now, let's comment this out, and I say car. Now because it's an object, you have to open and close the curly braces. That's the object. So I say first I need a car name, and I say the car name is Toyota, and then the next I need a model, and then I say the model is Camry, and then I'll say I need the color, and then the color is say blue, right? Or I could just say black, and then the year, because a manufacturer year, we'll say 2022. Now look at the difference between a string and then an object. So if I console.log this car, and then when I run it, so if you look at here, you see that I'm getting every information that pertain to this variable car. So that is just an object. Okay, so let's go to our slide and check what we have next. Perfect. So what we're going to treat next is operators. So I'm not really going to stress about all of these. I just want you to know them because we're going to be using them when we start treating on functions and concatenations and all that. So this operator in the description, this one is equal to then this one, it was introduced in ES6, equal value and equal type. I will explain all that later when we start using functions. Then this is not equal to, this is not equal value and not equal type, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to. And when we start using if statement and all that, we're going to see how this one comes into play. Less than or equal to, logical and, logical or, and logical not. So just take note of this because we're going to be using them later, and then we'll make reference to them when we start using them. So these operators, of course, they are much more there are many operators, but I just want to bring these few which are more common that you'll be using in your codes, right? So when we get to the stage where we start using them, I'm going to throw more light on them. I'm not going to really start explaining more because this is just a crash course. So I feel there's no need giving more details about them now. When we want to use them, I will start giving their details, right? So, but it's good that you just know that these operators are um, existing in JavaScript. So we'll go to the next slide. Perfect. Now we have what is called template literals. Before now we've been using quotes, these ones, to define our variables. And in JavaScript, you can also use template literals. And this template literals is your backticks. The backticks, you can find your backticks by the key below escape on your left hand side on your keyboard. The key below escape is where you get your backtick. So backticks has its own advantages over using ordinary quotes, right? So we're going to go to our code. Then another thing that you can also use backticks, of course, you can use it when you're doing concatenation and all that, but I didn't want to put it here. I'm going to bring that up when we start treating concatenation. Of course, you see the importance also of backtick, but let's go to our VS code and see one of the importance of backtick. So I want to comment all of these out. So let me first of all comment this. Now, for you to comment multiple lines, this comment is just for one line, right? Double slash. So if you want to comment multiple lines, you have to use this forward slash and this. Then you can see that the whole lines have been commented. So to close it to, you put the hash and then multiple forward slash. Oh, sorry, that's it. Perfect. So this is how you comment multiple lines. So I want to bring in template literal. So this what we want to work on now. Perfect. So let's give this ordinarily on a quote. Let's say I'm giving this the variable. Let's say John is equal. Then I'll say now I want to use the word is, right? Is a man and is often called. Just take note of this. I want to put a quote now inside another quote inside a quote. It's often called Johnny. Now you can see that I'm having error, right? Yes, that's the honest truth. I'm having error. So remember that you can use either double quote or single quote when you are writing your code. Now, most programmers often prefer using single quote because you don't need to press your shift before you could hit your code button. So single quote gives you that's just easy access. So let's comment this. So if you check this now, this is already giving you an error. The reason is because you don't have quote inside quotes, right? You can't have, of course, if you're opening it with a double quote, you can put single quote, so it's acceptable. But if you're opening with a single quote, yeah, you can put double quote inside a single quote. So that's the law of using quotes. So if you now need to use this other one, you have to put a backslash, right? To show that this is not just this is just this is not the code that covers your strings, that encloses your string, right? So when I run this now, I should be able this code now will be able to see. I'll be able to see it. But if I don't, what happens here, why I'm having this error is that the reason is because I've opened a quote here for the string, and for the fact that I'm putting this quote, right, what JavaScript I've seen is that I've closed this particular quote. So every other thing outside this quote, JavaScript does not understand. So you see string error. Because to JavaScript now, I have just closed this code. Sorry. I've just closed this code that I opened here. I've closed it here. Right? So it's confused. Why are you now writing something else aside after you've closed the code? So in order to make JavaScript understand that you've not really closed the code, that the code is still within the text, you have to put this backslash. Right? So when I run this variable now, when I run this now, console.log, console.log John. So let's run it and see what we're going to get. So you see that we've gotten it, right? He's a man and he's often called Johnny. Now, but of course, you see, if we remove this, we're going to get error. So it's not going to work. But now look at where template literals, gives you more advantage over using quotes. So you don't need to be putting all this backslash and all that. So if I'm using template literals, I don't even need to be doing all this. All I just need to do is to come here and put the backticks, then close it with backticks. That's all. So template literals accept any quote that you have to put, right? So what this does is that it just gives you that easy access to use any quotes you want to use. You're not being confined that I've used double quote. I don't need to use it again inside double quote, or I don't need to use single quote inside single quote. And so it even becomes more difficult. Look at this one now. So let's say now I've used single quote to start this, to open this. Now look at what happens. For the fact that I started this with single quotes, for the fact that I've now put a single quote here, JavaScript understands that I've closed it. So every other thing outside that follows suit is not part of this variable John, right? So in that case, I have to come here and be putting backslash and all that. So of course, as I said earlier, you can use double quote inside a single quote, and then you can use um single quote inside a double quote, right? So this one now is acceptable, just the way when we open with double quote, the single quote will acceptable. So you see the difficulty in using quotes, right? Better to just avoid all this, you use backtick, right? Because you might just be having these errors, and so the best way is that you just use backtick. That solves the problem. So if we save these now and run again, we're still going to get the same thing. That's it. So you see the benefit of backtick. So if you look at our definition of backtick, here we said template literals, of course, which we use backticks rather than quotes to define strings, right? And then, as I said earlier, we're still going to get more benefit of it when we look at concatenation, because this concatenation usually kind of give beginner stress, right? But with template literals, it's so simple and easy to use. So that's it. So go to our slide to see the next on the list. Thank you. Okay, now we come to concatenation. Concatenation in JavaScript refers to the process of combining two or more strings into a single string. So we use operator, then we use template literals. Perfect. So just as I was saying earlier, that you can use template literals for concatenation, then you can use this operator sign, right? This one of the operators too, this plus is an operator. So we use this for concatenation. So let's go to our VS Code and look at some examples of this. Okay, so I'll comment this. Perfect. Then now we have concatenation. Okay. So first we're going to use let's say plus operator first. Using the plus operator. So let's say we define this variable John and say const person equal John. So ordinarily when we want to, if we call this variable person, we're going to get John, right? But then, of course, we already know that we've been doing that before now. But then we can now add more spice to that and say, okay, we want to say good morning to the person, right? So we can now say, you can now put into text because it's a string, so you have to put this, put into a string and say good morning. Now I want to add this person. So I don't want to put the name John. I just don't want it to be hard coded, right? So what I'm going to do is to say concatenate, use the plus sign, concatenate, and then you can now say person, right? So let's save and run our code. First, we'll clean this out. So we're going to have this. Now you see, good morning, John. Now there's no space. I purposely left that so that you see how it works, right? So this plus sign actually gives the concatenation. You get it? So the place that I put, the space that I put here doesn't actually make any difference. Of course, it's just to make your work neat. Now I've concatenated this. Let me clean this. I did this concatenation and I'm getting this. But now there's no space. So I want to put space. So all I now need to do is remember that there's a string. For you to have a string, your string has to be in quotes, right? So I now need to put a space on a string, right? So I'm just going to open the quote as if I want to write a string, then I'll put space and then concatenate that. So it's assuming that I'm concatenating another string, another text, but just this text is a space, right? So that is it now. So I have this concatenation. Look at the stage now. I have this string, right? Then after the string, I give my concatenation. This concatenation is to this particular string again. Now this string is just a space. Now after that, I now concatenate this using this operator now to concatenate this person, which is this John now. So that is actually how it works. So let's run this. I'm not going to clean this. Let's run it. So you now have good morning, John. So if I change this now, so you see it's dynamic. If I change this now, so I'm not hard coding it. If I change this now, I'm going to get good morning, Mike. Look at it. So whatever name that I put here is what I'm going to get. If I put this now to do, I'm going to get good morning do, right? So this is dynamic, right? So let's return it to John. I'll just clean this up. Perfect. So this is a bit messy. Now, another easier way to do that with plus operator. Let me just bring this up. Another way to bring this up is, which is actually what I use. If for any reason I'm using plus operator, of course, I prefer using um, backtick. So now I've already concatenated this, right? So the best way you could do it, because the other one is quite messy and it doesn't really make sense, and it kind of makes your code not clean, you know. So the best thing I do is now this string that is here, you can just put a space, right? So what just happened is that I have good morning. Of course, this remember that this space take is seen here. So all I just need to do is even after good morning, I'll put a space and then concatenate. So when I save this and run, I'm going to have exactly what I had before. So you see, this is cleaner and easier. So please, for any reason you are using plus operator, this is the best way you can concatenate, carry out concatenations, right? So now we now have for template literal. So I want to repeat this console.log. We're still going to leave this person. So there are easier way you can copy and paste. Ordinarily, I would have just said copy, highlight, Control C, and then come here and Control V. When in VS Code, there are easier way to do all that. So I'm going to Control Z and return back. So the best way is hold your Shift, alternate. Of course, put your cursor on the line you want to copy, right? Hold your Shift, alternate, and arrow key down. I just dropped that. Now, when you hold your alternate, only alternate, you're going to move this line. You know, you can shift it or to anywhere you want it to be. That just um alternate and arrow key up or down, wherever, right? But if you want to copy, just like I said before, you use shift alternate and then arrow key down, right? So I'll delete this because we don't need it. Okay, now I want to use template literals here. Okay, let me just copy this because I'm going to need this. Good. Perfect. So let me shift this one down. Now I'm going to say backtick. So here I'm say, let's say good afternoon, right? Then for template literals, what you use is instead of now before we use that sign, the operator sign, the plus sign, but here we use your dollar and then put your curly braces and then you can call, sorry, you can now call the person. Something is not right here. Sorry, I made a mistake, of course. This happens in programming. You can see where we're having this error. I left I left the template literal, right? So you just copy this, cut it, sorry, of course. Then we'll give a space. Everything should be inside the template literal. Everything should be enclosed in the backtick, right? So because I was putting this outside the backtick, that was a hard error. So let's save this now and run our code. Now you can see we have exactly, you can see how clean it is, right? This one, good morning John, is for this, right? Why this good afternoon is for this. So you see that it's better you just use your backtick to concatenate. When you are concatenating, it saves you all the stress of um trying to put space. Where should I put space? Do I need to put it here, or do I need to concatenate another string and put space and all that, you know? So but with your template literals, it's just straightforward, very, very straightforward. So that's it for concatenation. So let's go back to our slide to see what we have next. Perfect. We now have arrays. Of course, we're advancing. We're almost done. So as I said earlier, at the end of this crash course, we're going to do a mini project, right? That will now have to work directly on the drum on the browser on the browser. So you're going to see your project directly on the browser, you know, taking effect. So, but before then, we just need to understand the basic of JavaScript, understand how these things work. So from what we've seen here, you see that in JavaScript, array is a special data type used to store multiple values. Of course, I will explain all that. Array can put various types of data, including numbers, strings, objects, and even other arrays. Of course, you can put array inside an array. They provide a way to organize and manipulate collection of data. That's just simple definition of array. That's simply explanation of what array is. So we're going to look at, of course, after this, I'm going to look at array methods. So I don't want to bring it up here. Our next course will take care of that. Array, we're going to look at array method later. So, but let's just look at simple ways of how array, you know, is what array is in JavaScript. I think that's the right word to use. So let's go to our VS Code and get more examples. Okay, so here, so let's just remove this. So here I'll perfect. Okay, so the next one is array. So array is represented with square bracket. So this is what you use to represent array. So for us to be fast, I have some examples of array. I don't want to be typing it and be wasting time. So this is an array of numbers, right? So we tagged it here, const numbers. So you can see that we have different numbers here that is being held by this array. So this is a symbol array, right? And then array of fruits, we have apple, banana, orange, and it can contain as much as possible an array of strings, right? Now, as I said earlier, we saw in our slide that array can have mixed, you can have mixed array. This is number, this is string, and I can see have boolean even inside. You can have true or false, whatever, right? So, and then this is an object, and you can see have even another array, right? We can see how this array, let's just bring this now. You can see how this array even inside this array. So since this array is much, we just put them on different lines. So that is the best way. Put them on different line. Good. And then we'll break this out. Fine. So you can see that. Let me drop this a bit down. So this array now is just mixed. It has a number, it has a string, it has a boolean, and then it has an object, and then it also has an array. So array can hold so many information on it, different type of mixed types, data type, right? That is the benefit of array. So let's console.log. Let's start with numbers, and then of course we have to save. So when we run, you see that the information is shown here, and then we can now put the fruits. We run fruit. Let me take this up. We run fruit. We see our arrays of fruit. We have just exactly what we have. We have apples and banana, orange. Then if we run this now, I'll save. It's still going to give us exactly all we have entered. You see, we have the number, we have the string, we have the boolean, we have the object, and then we have the array. So that is just as we stated in our slide, that arrays can hold various types of data, including numbers, strings, objects, and even other array. They provide a way to organize and manipulate collections of data. So that is just the benefit of array. So next, we're going to look at the indexing of array. It's very, very important. You have to understand how arrays are being indexed. So arrays start, ordinarily you start your counting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Arrays start from zeros, right? So arrays, you always hear that word, that arrays are zero indexed. So they start their indexing from zero. So if I want to pick this array, of course, if I want to pick an array, a particular number from array, you have to start from zero. So this is the zero index, this becomes the one index, this is the second index, and so on. If I hit this, of course, I'm going to get all the arrays. But supposing I don't want to get all of these, right? I just want to get maybe this one. So all we need to do is to check the index. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can then say, of course, you put your square bracket, and then you say the fourth array. So let's now run. Let me clean this first. Run. See, we've gotten the fourth index. So that is how array works. So you just have to take note of that. So if we want the first one, we'll say 0. And when you run, you're going to get, that's it, because the first one is 1, right? And then for fruit, same thing, is same with fruit. So if we save this now, let me clean this up. Let me clear it up. So we've gotten the 0th index is apple. This is the first, 0th, first, and second, right? So if we put here now, say second, what are we going to get? Of course, you already know it, orange. And again, when you look at this array, this mixed array now, right, you can see we have another array inside this array. And then it is very much possible to pick a particular fruit from this array. What we've done before, we just got the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This array is on the index 4, right? And everything here appeared. But if we want, supposing we want just to pick only banana, how are we going to do that? It is very, very much possible. You can pick an array inside array. That is the honest truth. So in that case, what we just have to do is to, let me copy this and bring this up. And then this is on index 4, right? I'll clear this up. So when I run it, I'm going to get everything in the array. Fine. Now supposing I just want to pick only banana. I don't want to get this everything in this array. I just need only banana. How am I going to do that? All you now need to do is to get your square bracket again. So I'm telling what I'm not telling JavaScript is, okay, go to the fourth index, get me everything in this array, and now inside that array, pick only the index 1. If you remember, this is the 0 index, this is 1 index. So when we hit this now, we're not going to get everything, we'll just get only banana. Exactly, that was it. You see it. So when we look at index 0, what are we going to get? We're going to get apple, which is this. Now if you look at this now, I just want to put this up. So if you look at this, let's say this is index 3. Look at this object here, right? I'm going to ask this question. I will not put the answer here. I'm not going to give the answer here. Let's go to the comment question section and give me your answer in the comment section, right? So if you look at this now, this is, go to the index 3, and supposing I want to get only the name John, right? That is not going to work. As we saw in array, I have undefined. Can you give me an answer why? For index 4, I'm having it. I'm able to pick the index, right, and get a particular fruit that I want, but it's not working for this. That is an object. Please kindly drop your answer on the comment section. Thank you. So we go to the next. Let's look at our slide and see what we have next, right? So this is array method. So fact is that there are so many array methods, but for the sake of this course, I'm picking just this few: the push, pop, shift, unshift, map. Now there are other array methods, right? But of course, we're not really going that in depth, and these are the most popular ones that you most likely be using all the time. Other ones are still okay, but then these ones are very, very popular. So start them one after the other. The push method adds one or more elements to the end of an array and returns the new array. Now let me explain what that means. So we go here. Let's clear this. Drop this a bit. So we'll say this is. Let's comment this out. Perfect. So the next one is, oh sorry, array method. Perfect. Now we're going to look at number one, the push. This should be column and comment, sorry. Number one, the push. Push method. Now, as we said earlier, the push method add one or more elements to the end of an array and returns the new element of that array. What are we saying here? Let's just bring this. We have this fruit. We have this fruit. Perfect. So supposing I now want to add another fruit to this array. Let's assume I want to add Greek to this array. All I now have to do is to come here and say fruit dot push. Now you can now put whatever you want to add. Here, I want to add Greek. So when I save and then I console.log fruits again. Let's console.log fruits. So pick fruit. Then we'll remove this. So let's now you can now see that grape has just been added to this array of fruits. So initially we had apple, banana, orange, right? But with the push method, we've been able to successfully add a grape. You can see now it goes to the end and then it adds it. And again, I just want to chip this in that it's still very much possible to modify an array. Let's assume that I want to modify this this array of banana. Perhaps we want to change it to something like maybe cherry. So all we need to do is to say fruit. Just copy it instead of typing it. So I'll say fruit. Now the array I want to modify the index. Banana is on index 1. So put the index. So now say it's equal whatsoever you want to change it to. I want to change it to cherry. Right? So what's going to happen here is that when we now console.log this, you will no longer be seeing banana. It has now been modified to cherry. So let's save this and hit our console.log again. So let's run our code. Now you now see apple, cherry, orange, grape. But initially what we had was banana. So I just want to make this clear. So it's still very much possible to modify an element in an array, right? So the next is pop method. So get this, say number 2 is pop. Yeah, the next is pop method. So let's look at our slide. It said that the pop method removes the last element from an array and returns that element. So let's go to our VS Code and see an example of pop. Okay, so I'll just remove this too. And all you just need to do is to say fruit.pop. That's all. Fruit.pop. And because it's a method, you have to put parentheses. And because it's a method, we have to put this parentheses. That's all. So let's save this and let's clear this up. So I'll hit now. So you can now see that it has automatically removed the last one. So we now have apple and banana. So that's how pop works. Is that straightforward and simple. So the next on our list is shift. Now shift method removes the first element from an array and returns the element. So the difference between shift and pop is that pop removes the last from their in the array. Why the shift method remove the first element in the array. So the pop method remove the last element in the array. So that's just the difference. There's nothing more. So this one I will just say fruit dot shift and you put your parentheses. That's all. And when you console.log this, when you console.log fruit, you're going to get orange out of the array. That's it. Sorry, my my error. You're going to get apple out of the array. For pop remove the orange, while shift removes the apple. That's the first on the list, right? Which is the 0th index. So that's just it. So now we have the unshift. The unshift method adds one or more elements to the beginning of an array and returns the new length of the array. So what the unshift does is that it adds new elements at the beginning of this array. Remember, we're still using this array, this fruit array. So what we're going to do here now is to say um, fruit dot unshift. Now I'm going to put we're going to put cherry. So we want to add cherry. And then maybe which other one again? Let's say grape. Uh-oh, I've deleted this, sorry. Okay. So once I save now and console.log fruits, we're going to see that these two have just been added to this array of fruits. So let me remove this. Something isn't right here. I figured out I didn't save. So Control S. So, of course. So we now have cherry, grape, apple, banana, and orange. So, of course, that's on shift. They are quite explicit and very straightforward, right? So the next on our list is map method. So if you look at here, the map method create a new array with the result of calling a provided function on every element in the calling array. Now, what that simply means is that you can map each item in an array to something else. So we have a given array, right? Let's look at our code. So let's go to our code base. So we have a given array, right? You can map that new array that is given into something else entirely, and then put it in a new array and call that array. So I have some lines of code that I've written just for time's sake, so we don't waste time writing the code from scratch. I'll explain every bit of the line that I'm pasting here. So like I said earlier, you can map each item in an array into something else, right? And then uh, put that new result in a new array and then call the new array. So if you look at um this array now, we have an array of number, right? I want us to multiply each of these items, right? And then put it into a new array and then call out the new array. So that is where that is all we have here. So I'm going to explain all of this. Yeah, we haven't treated function, but um, so I'll just kind of give a brief explanation of function here, right? So function is a reusable block of code that can be called to perform a specific task. I wouldn't want you to put more energy on it for now. We're going to explain in details what function is when we get to function. So just like array is used to hold data, right? Why function? You write your code, right, on the function and then reuse it later. And of course, just as we have an array, you can give your array a name. So also you can give your function a name. And then later, when you want to reuse that function, all you just need to do is to call that name, right? Once you call that name, you give into that function, all the code that you've written on that function will be called upon. So that's all about function for now. So here we have this function and we call this function multiply because what we want to do is that we want to multiply the items in this array of numbers, right? And then you have the value, the index, and the array. So what that means is that we can manipulate each of these values. Each of these values. We can manipulate the index. Remember, this value 1 is sitting on index 0. The value 2 is on index 1. So we can manipulate by the index. Then we can also manipulate by the array, right? This is an array. Remember that arrays they start from their 0 index, right? So you can actually manipulate the array itself, right? So that is why we have all of these here. So each of them you want to manipulate, you just call the value. If it's the value you want to call, you call it. If it's the index you want to manipulate, then you call it here. If it's the array, you call it here. Now we're going to do that. And then at the end of the day, what we just need to do is to assign it to a new array, right? So let's just manipulate the values. So all I have to do here is to say return. When we get to function, you understand all of this. So say return value. I want to manipulate the value. And what do I want to do? I want to multiply each of these value by 3, right? So having done this now, I will now say now, what has just happened is that I have changed the item on this array, right? So this now is going to multiply this value by 3, multiply each of these items by 3. Now, what I've now done here is to put the new change into a new array called, I call this new array mult numbers, that is multiplied numbers, right? Now, this new array is equal this number dot map. That is where you now map it, right? Dot map this function. So you get it. So this function now is sitting on its own. You get the fact. This function has no business with this array. So all I've just done now is to say, okay, this new array is equal this array dot map this function, because this is where I've written the code that we alter, that we change the item in this array. You get it? So I'll just map this number to the function, to this function, and then once I console log this new array, I'm going to get my new result, right? So that is just it. So let's save and then run our code. You can see 1 times 3 of course gives us 3. 2 times 3 gives us 6. You just, so it does the multiplication. And you can also write something in, we can concatenate something else. We can say the new map. The new map is, yeah, then we'll concatenate. Remember, we've done concatenation, right? So let's save this, and you're going to see, let's run our code. You can see our code. Let's move. You see, there has to be space here, right? There has to be space here. So let's clear this up, and so you can see the new map is 3, and so on, just like that. So you see the little issue we had with this issue of using plus for concatenation. That's why I actually prefer template literals. So let's use template literal and see the difference. So here I'm going to use my backtick and then remove this. So I'll close the backtick here. Perfect. So now I'm going to remove this plus. Remember, the plus is no longer needed. And here I'm going to put my $sign and curly braces. So I've just done this concatenation using my template literals, and just like the other one. So let's leave this. I don't want to clear it, and then let's save and run this code again. So you can see we still have exactly the same as before, right? So you can see they're just exactly the same thing. So no difference. Normally I prefer using this, right? Because it's straightforward. And so the issue here is that you can concatenate, something else into all of this, and then you still get your results, right? And then very important again, let me clear this. Very important to note that when you carry out a map function, the initial array does not change. Take note of that. The first array does not change. It remains. If you see this array now, if I output these numbers, right? Let's even output both of them. So here we output numbers. So when we run our code, you can see that we have this one does not change. It doesn't change the initial array, right? It doesn't change the value. What it does is that it maps the item, right? It changes the item and then call out into a new something else entirely, and then you can call out the new item. So as we have here, right? And as I said earlier, you can also work on the index. So let's just here now pick the index and multiply them by 3, right? You can see now that value is no longer highlighted. Instead, it becomes the index, because that is what I've returned here, right? So when we multiply, let's clear this. Now you see 3, because this is the index 0. So 3 times 0 is giving you 0. This is index 1. 3 times 1 is giving you 3, and so on, right? And the same too, you can work on the array, right? So if we can say the array, which of the arrays we want to we want to work on, let's say the array, this index 0, index 1, index 3, index 2, sorry, index 0, index 1, index 2. So this is going to give us 9 all true. So when we call this, you can see that it now multiply all of this array by 3, because we've called this array of index 2, which is 3, right? So that's just how map works. Next on our list is loop. So loop allows you to execute a block of code repeatedly as long as a specific condition evaluates to true. So here, we're going to look at only for loop and while loop, right? Of course, this is a crash course, so we just look at the for loop and the while loop. So let's comment all of this out. And so we'll say loop. Now the first we're going to look at is for loop. So let's just put it here, for loop. So let's just drop the for loop structure here. I will explain. So this is the structure of for loop. Of course, I'll comment this out and then explain what this line of code means. Let me comment it out. Fine. So for you to have a for loop, right, you need to, of course, have the for, and then you initialize, then you state your condition, and then you update. I'm going to write the code now so you understand. So we'll say I want to output say from 0 to 10, right? So I'll say for 4, then you initialize. How do you initialize? You say let, for instance, I equal 0, right? This is initialization. Remember, after the initialization, you put your semicolon. We are done with initialization. I've initialized that. I want my code to start running from 0, right? Now, what is the condition? What is the condition that I want? How much do I want I to run? I was okay. I should run less than. I should be less than. Let's say I should be less than 10, right? This is my condition. So it means that I is going to start from 0. That is initialization, right? And then it will keep running. It's going to run for 0. Then it will run all through to 9, because remember that what I said here, I is less than 0, not equal to 0. Sorry, I is less than 10, not equal to 10, right? So the only number that is less than 10 here is 9. So when it gets to 10, to say no, I is not going to run at 10, right? So that is a condition. And then I put my semicolon because the condition is done. And then you now update. That update, for you to run the update, all you need to do is to say I plus plus. Now, I can now put my praises. And then what do I need to do? I'll console.log I. So I'll say console.log I. So now what we'll have here is exactly what I have here. So this is initialization. I said let I be equal to 0. I've initialized it. This is the condition, and then this is the update. This is usually how you update I. You just have to say I plus plus. The reason for this is because if you don't update it, it's going to just not going to work. It's just going to keep looping, right? So, but once you update it, it knows that immediately after the first loop, it's going to add +1, right? And then loop the second one, that is 1 now, add +1 again, update +1 again, loop second, update +1 again, loop third, and so forth until this condition is met. Until this condition is met. Once this condition is met, it stop updating. It triggers off and the code will stop running. So let's save and run this code. So you can see what we have here. You see that this code runs from 0, because the initialization is 0, start from 0, all through to 9, right? So supposing we say, okay, we want our initialization to start from 1, right? Now let's see how it's going to be. I'll save and then we'll run. You see, start from 1 because the initialization is 1. So take note of that. And then supposing I say, okay, I want to include 10, right? So all I have to do is to say I is less than or equal to 10. I is less than or equal to 10. So I can save this and then run. So you see that initialization starts from 1. Now inclusive 10 has been included, right? So you now have to um, put at 10 because you now have less than or equal to 10, right? So when it's looping, it's going to get to this 10 and then stop. So if you still want it to stop at 5, all you don't need to do is to put 5 here. And remember, you can also concatenate any string here. So let's say we want to concatenate a string here and say for loop. So all I have to do here is put my $sign and the curly braces. Now I can now cover the brackets. Good. So once I run this code now, we're going to have, so let's return this to 0. I want this to start from 0. Let me clear this up. So you see, we'll have for loop, 0, because we concatenated this string to the numbers, right? So I want to believe that is clear. So the next is while loop. So while loop is quite similar to for loop. The only difference is that you set your variable outside the loop. So here we'll say let I equals 0 as we initialize now. And then we'll now say while I is less than or equal to 5, right? I like putting space. Now while I is less than or equal to 5, we can now say console.log I, right? But that is not done. So here we'll now have to put our updates. Of course, if you don't put your update, your code is going to run the loop. It just keep looping, right? So that's it. So I want to keep this for loop, and then while the while loop runs. Sorry, I'm having an error here. Oh, sorry. This is less than or equal to 5. So I'm not supposed to put space. I can put space here, but of course, just can still cover it. But then there shouldn't be space in between here because this is less than or equal to, right? So that's why I was having the error. Fine. So let's save and see how I want to keep this. So let's just drag this up. So I can clear and then, so you can see we have the for loop and then we have our while loop. So that's just it. So just as we did here, we can also concatenate this. So let's just concatenate all of this. Can just copy it and put in our console.log. But here, instead of for, we'll say while loop. Sorry. Good. So we'll save and clear and then run. So you can see we have our for loop and then we have our while loop. So that's pretty much it on this section of loop. So let's check out what we have next on our list. Okay, perfect. We have function. So it's time we now look at what function is. If from here we say that function is a reusable block of code that can be defined and called by name to perform a specific task or calculate a value. Now in JavaScript, we'll say that function is a building block, right? It's a building block in JavaScript, allowing you to organize your code into smaller, manageable pieces. That is just what function is. So what happens here in JavaScript is that you use your function to organize your code and then you can reuse them, from time to time. You don't need to write a particular code here and then you want to use that code somewhere else. You see how to go and rewrite that same code again. With function, you just drop that code there and then give it a name. Once you call that name, that particular block of code that has been written inside that function will be executed and the functions will take place. So let's go to our VS Code and carry out some examples there. So here, just as we've done before, I want to bring in the structure of a function, how it should look like, right? So I will explain what I've just copied and pasted here. So you start by initializing your function by writing this function, and then you now have your function name. This is the name that you are going to be calling whenever you want to use the code that is written here, right? So you give it a function name whatever name you want to give it, in line with this code. It's always advisable that whatever code you want to write here, the function name should kind of depict the code that you're writing here, right? Then you have parameters, parameter 1, parameter 2, more parameters. It's not limited to 2 parameters or 3 or 4 parameters. Now the parameters that are here uh is dependent on the code that you are executing here, right? So this is optional. It mustn't be that there must be a parameter. You can still write your function without parameters. So when you are writing code here, you should know if you are going to have parameters. When we start execute our function, give our examples. We'll give more examples on this so you know when to put parameter and when not to put parameter. So at the end of the day, you now put your code here. At the end, when you are done with your code, you have your return result. And this return result is used to specify the value the function should return after execution. What do I mean by that? You've written your code here, right? So what value do you actually want to return after this code has been executed? I will explain better when we write down our code for the function. Or rather, all of this will become more clearer. Yes, I think that's the right word. All of this will become clearer when we write our code on function. So as usual, for us to be faster, I will copy down the code and explain every line of it. So we're going to comment this. I want this commented. So let me just bring this comment out and drop it here. Yeah. So we use this now to explain what we have here. Drop this. So yeah. So as I said, this is your function, right? And then the function name. So what we want to do is to add two numbers. The function name, I named it add numbers, right? So this is the parameter. Parameter. Here, my parameter, you can call it the parameter anything. I call it A and B for simplicity's sake. A and B, right? And of course, just as you have here, you separate your parameters by comma. So here as A and then comma B, right? The last one, there should be no comma. And then I have my curly braces down, just as we have here. Now, this is my code, the code that will execute. Look at it here, right? So I now initiate this code here, right? By initiating a variable, and I called it sum, right? And the sum, what do I want it to do? Plus these parameters for me, A plus B, right? And now what do I want to return at the end? Just as I said earlier, that return is used to specify the value the function should return after execution. What do I want to get after execution? I actually don't want to get this code, all of this code, right? What I want is the sum which I have given a variable name here, sum, right? So at the end of the day, return the sum for me. That is the total of A and B. So now that we've written our code to add the parameters, whatever parameter we're going to put here, and then sum it up and hold the result. Now, the next thing is that we need to output this result, this sum, right? We need to output it. And for us to output it, we have to put the new result, right, into a new variable. So I call this variable here name. I'm sorry, result. Pardon. So I call this new variable now that we hold the sum, right, of this code. Whatever that's been executed here. The new result, I call it result. And then will be equal to this function, right? I have to reference this function because the code is being executed on this function. Is equal to this function. This is the function name, remember, right? And then now because I did not hard code the numbers here, you see here that I put parameters, right? I didn't hard code it. So I can now put any parameter that I want here. I can now put any value here that I want. And whatever I put here, the code is going to add it because the code is executing here. It's going to add whatever I put here, right? And give me the result. And now for me to see my result, I console.log results. So that is how simple it is. So now let's run our code and see what we get. Fine, we got 8 because 3 plus 5 is 8. So you can just change this value here. You can put 10. And now when you put 10, remember to save. When you put 10 and you hit, you're going to get 13 because 3 plus 10 is 13. So here too, you can also add more parameters. Take note of that. So we'll put C. It means that now that we've put C, it means that we are going to add another parameter here. And then add more parameter here. Of course, sorry, in our block of code, we are now going to call this C. You can see that this C is not active. You can see that it's not active because we've not called it in our line of code. So we can, I swear, just call it in our line of code C. Are you seeing that C is now active, right? So that is just how it is. So as I said earlier, this parameter is not most that it has to be 1 or 2 or 3, depending on the code you are executing, right? That is what we help you to know how much parameters there's going to be here. And sometimes there's not going to be parameter here too, right? So that is just it. So when we execute this code now, what are we going to get? We got 15 because of course this is 15. So that is pretty much more how function works. Then again, it's also good to note here that in AFCs we now have what we call the arrow function. And how does arrow function work? Let me clear this up. How does arrow function work? What arrow function does is that it remove this function name, right? This function. So what you just have to do is to remove it, and then you add an arrow So let's remove this, right? Then this one will now become equal. You put equal here and then come here and put an arrow sign. That's all. It works exactly like the other one. So let me undo so we can have the other one. Good. This is what we have before. Let me just duplicate this. Good. So this is the normal function. Why this one is the arrow function. So it's not difficult. Here you just have to come here and put equal. Why you put an arrow sign here. So same thing. So let's say here now, of course, now we can comment this one so we don't have error. Good. So once we save this, we're still going to have exactly the same result. Still going to have same 15. So let's run this now. You see, we still have 15, no error, right? So this is the new way of writing function, this arrow function, right? You don't have to put the name here any longer, right? But nonetheless, any of them works perfectly fine. So let's go to our slide and see what we have next. Conditional statement. Perfect. So conditional statement in JavaScript are used to make decision in your code based on specific condition. We have a lot of conditional statement, but for the purpose of this video, we'll be looking at if statement and else if statement. These are the basic and the most commonly used statements, right? So normally, conditional statement allows you to execute different block of code depending on whether a condition is true or false, right? So here we're going to comment this all of this out. So we have here conditional statement, and the first what we'll be looking at is if. Excuse me. So we have a statement. So we'll start with this if statement. So I'll bring the structure of the if statement as we've always done, and then I'll explain. So here we'll have your if, and then the condition to be met, and then your code has to be executed here, code to be executed if the condition is true. Remember that. So what happens here is that once you put your condition here, this code is going to be executed once this condition you've put here is true. If the condition is false, this code is not going to execute. So that is where conditional statement becomes very handy. So let's write some block of code with our if statement. So let's write a code that, okay, if you are 18 and above, we'll console.log you are an adult. Then if you are less than 18, we'll console.log you are a minor. So let's do that. We'll say, so first we have to um initialize age. So we'll put const age equal let's just put 20, right? We can always change this value. So now this is where our if statement now comes in. So we'll now say if age, this age here, right, that we've initialized here, if age is greater than or equal to 18, right? So this is the condition. We want this condition to be met. If this condition is not met, the line of code, you are not an adult, right? We're not going to, you're an adult, we're not going to see that. So we'll open our curly braces. This is where we'll now write our code to be executed. Remember, this is the condition as you've seen here. This is the condition that must be met. So this age here must be equal to or greater than 18. If the condition is not met, this code is not going to execute. So as you've seen here, here now is the code to execute if this condition is met. So what do we want to execute? We want to console.log. And what are we console logging? Is a string, of course. You are an adult, right? So that does it. So once this condition is met, we're going to get this string here. You are an adult. So let's save and run our code and see. Ah, we're having an, oh, sorry, we should comment this out. Of course. Sorry for that mess up. So let's save and run, let's play this, run our code again. So you see, we got you are an adult, right? Because this condition is met. Age here is 20. So let's put 18, right? Let's put 18. Remember that we say should be greater than or equal to 18. So let's put 18 and save and see what we get. We see how you're an adult. Now let's put 17. Let's put 17 and see what's going to happen. Let me clear this up out. So now we'll put 17 and save. Let's run. Nothing. Nothing. This code didn't run. Because why? This code did not run because this condition was not met. You get it? So once this condition is not met, this code is not going to run. Once the condition is met, the code is going to run. And how did you know that this condition was not met? Because this age here that we initialize here is 17. We just put 17, right? So if this condition is met, this code is going to run. Else, it's not going to run, right? So that is where if statement and else if statement becomes very handy, right? So this is just simple. This simple of explaining if statements. So let's look at the else if statement. But before then, I think it is needful we look at the else statement first before the else if statement. So this condition, once this condition is met, right? This one, this code will be executed. So, but the else statement, then if the condition is not met, right? If the condition is not met, this code will be executed. Execute this code if the condition is false. So this is how else statement comes in. So if the condition is met, if the condition is true, right? This line of code will be executed. But if the condition is false, then this line of code will be executed. So let's implement that here. So here we say else, then what do we want? We'll copy this. We're going to change it now to you are a minor. So we'll just change this. You are a minor, right? So we'll save. So let's change this back now to 20 or to 19, right? So because it's greater than 18, we have you are an adult. So let's change this now to 16. And then we'll clear this. So what do you get? You see, because we now have here you're a minor because this age is less than 18. Because now we've put an else statement that saying if this does not run, right, let this run. So once this condition is met, this line of code will run. And if this condition doesn't, if this condition is not met, then that is where else statement comes in. Else, run this condition. You're a minor. So the next one now is else if statement. So where does else if statement comes in? Else if statement comes in when you have more than two conditions, right? Or more than one condition, rightly. So this is the condition, the first condition, right? Now, if this condition is met, this code should run. Then if we now have a second condition before the else, of course, the else statement is the last when all the conditions are not met, then this condition should run, right? But now we now also have another condition that is true, but it is not same as first condition. So we now have a second condition, and sometimes we could have as much condition as possible. Now that is where else if comes in, right? So I don't confuse you. Let's just break this down. We'll bring it up later. So we'll now say, let's assume now say we want to say, let's assume that there's a party, and from 18 to 40, or say 18 to 45 are allowed, right? Then from 45 to whatever age upward is too old to enter the party. And then from 17 below are minors, they are not allowed to enter the party. So we can just say here, so from 18 to 45, right, is you're an adult, welcome to the party. Fine. So once you are above 18, right, we have this, you're an adult, welcome to the party. So if we now have, say, from 45 and above, we can say, I'm sorry, you are too old for this party. So let's just put that here. So we'll say, else if we put a condition, the age is greater than 45. So what do we want? We'll say console.log, just console.log. So we'll say sorry, you are too old for this party. So say sorry, you are too old for this party. Then else this cannot come, right? So but when you look at this code, right, there's a bug on this code, and I purposely left it like that. I purposely actually left it so that we could have this bug. Now if you're able to detect this bug, right, let me know in the comment section. And there are two solutions to this bug, with the contents of this video. And if you can, that would be really, really great to be able to find out the bug and then drop the solution on the bug. So the thing, but then of course I have to state where the bug is. Now, if you look at this code now, if we put 20, okay, what we have now is 26, right? It's going to work perfectly fine. We're going to say, you are an adult, welcome to the party, right? But then, if we now put here and say 50, for example, or let's say 52, right? So ordinarily we should get, sorry, you are too old for this party because you've crossed this age. Are you getting it? But that is not going to happen. And I'll tell you why. So now we put 52. When we run, we are still having you are an adult, welcome to the party. So it means that this line of code is not running. It's not even seen. Sorry, this line of code is not running. This condition is not being seen. And why is that? The reason why, the reason that is happening is because this line of code is already running before this. So when the code is running, remember it runs from up down, right? It check the first condition. What is the first condition? The first condition states once you are greater or equal to 18. Once age is greater or equal to 18, output this result. And it checked the age. Age is greater than 18. It outputs this result. So before it comes to this line now, right? This result is already out. So it's going to invalidate this line, this code, because it has already run this code. So that is why this 52 is not outputting this, right? Because it is already true. This first condition is already true for age, that age is greater than 50. Age is greater than the 52 we have here, right? Is greater than 18. So this code is true. It runs it. So how are we going to handle situation like this? Of course, the first but not the ideal way is that you have to run this first, right? On this context now, on this video, on this example, sorry, the two ways is that first you have to run this first. Let this condition be the topmost condition, right? So we're going to move this condition here and say let age be greater than 45, right? Age is greater than 45. Or should we just leave this and then, yeah, duplicate everything? I think that is one of the best ways we can do it. So let's duplicate this. So let me comment this out. I'll return it back. But then fine. So let's so this is still working. This is still working, right? What we'll now have here is we'll say, okay, let this condition be first. So we'll now say this is 45. And then once that we have 45, I need this to run. So I'll just copy this. And then this other one comes here. And then this one is now age is greater than or equal to 18, right? So what happens, what I just did here is, I want this condition to run first. So once age is greater than 45, let me bring this one down so that we can be seeing good. So once age is greater than 45, the code will, now when you put any age in any number here that is greater than 45, this code is going to run first. So you're going to get this, right? So this condition will now become the second condition. So when you now put another condition that is, say, below 45, let's say 44, right? Now, this condition is not met. So it's going to look at this condition. This is below 45. Fine. Now, it will now go to the next line of condition, to the next line. Now, we now have another condition that say age is greater than or equal to 18. This condition is met, right? So this age is greater than 18. That is when it will now output this one. Now, when we now have something less than 18, if you look at it now, this condition is not met. Age, this condition is that age must be greater than 45. Age is not greater than 45. Age is 16. Now, it leaves that. It's not going to run this line of code. We'll get to the next condition. The next condition say age must be greater or equal to 18. Age is not greater or equal to 18. Age is not equal to 18. Age is less than 18. It's going to leave this. The condition is not going to run. Then else is not going to give you this, right? So let's have the results. Okay, so we save and hit our result. So let's run. So you see you are a minor, right? And then when we now put 52, for instance, when we now put it 52, you see it can now run successfully because this is the first condition that is running. So it has looked at 52. 52 is greater than 45. It gives you this condition. Sorry, you are too old for this party, right? So, but like as I said earlier, this is not actually, of course, if you are writing your code and you have started from this condition, there's nothing wrong with that. But let's assume that you started with the normal age greater than or equal to, right? So let's now comment this. Let's just comment it out and bring this one back. So remove this comment and remove this. So let's assume that you've written this, right? Okay, before this, and then this comes in, before else comes in. How are you going to handle it? The best way to handle it is that you literally don't need to uh, start altering your code, moving, copying and pasting. No, all you just need to do, remember we did operators when we're starting. So all you now have to do is to say and, right? You use your and operators to say age is less than or equal to 18 and less than 45, right? Or less than or equal to 45, less than or equal to 45. So, oh, sorry, age, right? So age, the first condition now is that age is going to be greater than or equal to 18. And same age must be, this is and, not or. So this code must be within this cycle, right? Age must be greater than or equal to 18. And same age must be less than or equal to 45. At this stage, once you put this value, 52 does not fit into this condition. Yes, it is true that 52 is greater than 18, but 52, remember we're using and to, not or. If you're using or, once you use or, then any of them can run. And your or, this is your or. Remember we did operators, so you can just scroll back and see the operators. This or, then now if it's or, any of this is true, right? Because of course you know that's or. This is true or this is true. But this is and. What you have to put here is not or, and. And means that both must be true. So 52 is true for here, but 52 is not true for here because 52 is greater than 18, but 52 is also greater than 45. And the code said age must be less than or equal to 45. So if we run this code, let's clear this off. So if we run this code like this, that is just all you just have to put, right? To um solve the bug, this bug here, right? So all you don't need to do is when we run this now, 52, you see, we're getting it. Sorry, you are too old for this party. Why? Because this condition is not met. 52 is greater than 18, or 52 is also greater than 45. This condition is saying that the age must be greater or equal to 18, and at the same time, less than or equal to 45. So that is just it on if else and else statement. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go to our slide and see what is next on our list. Okay, so we have ternary operator. So the ternary operator is a concise way of writing conditional statement in JavaScript. The ternary operator takes three operands: the conditions followed by a question mark, an expression to execute if the condition is true, followed by a colon, and an expression to execute if the condition is false. So the fact is, we just finished if statement, if statement, else, if, and then else statement. So the ternary operator is just a kind of a very brief way, concise way of writing if statement and if and else statement in JavaScript. So let's look at it. So we have this before. Let me copy it down here. So I will uncomment this. Perfect. So we have this. Let's remove this one. Now, if age is greater or less than or equal to 18, we could just say you're an adult, welcome to the party, right? Else, give me this, you're minor, right? So we just have one condition. Once the condition is true, give me this. If the condition is not true, give me this. Now we can put this actually in a ternary operator since the condition is just a single condition. So the first, as we've usually been doing, we'll look at the structure of ternary operator. So let me get the structure down for ternary operator. And this is the structure. So the first is your condition, right? followed by a question mark, and then you now have your expression if the condition is true, followed by colon, and then your expression if the condition is false. So let's put this into code and see our result. So we'll bring this down. So this is our age, and then the next will now say we'll have to put it into a variable. We'll say const. So this is the message, right? Once the age is above 18 or 18, we have this message. If the age is below 18, we have this message. So let's put this as message. So now say this is equal age is greater than or equal 18. If age is greater than or equal 18, what do I want? Right? As you can see, this is a condition. This is a condition. So if this condition is true, what do I want? I want this. I want this. Perfect. Now, the next followed by a column. And then if the condition is false, what do I want? I want this. Let me just copy it. Then a semicolon. That's all. So for me to get my result, I have to console.log message. So just console.log message. So instead, I'll have this here. Now, first let me comment this out, and we'll run this. Of course, this is comment. This should be commented. So if we run this now, let me save. This is the former one we have. If and else statement, right? This is giving me you're an adult, welcome to the party. Fine. So let me comment this out now, and then run the ternary operator. What's it going to have? Exactly same results. So let me clear this out and run this. We're having exactly same result. You're an adult, welcome to the party. So if I change this now, if I change this one to 15 years and save, let me clear this and run the result. You see, you are a minor. So it's just a simpler way of writing if and else statement, right? So you have your condition followed by a question mark, and then your expression if the condition is true, and then followed by your expression if the condition is false. So that is pretty much on ternary operator. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So the last but not the least is the DOM. Wow, we've come a long way, and this is now for us to build a mini project with all we've learned so far. All this while we've been working and running our project with console.log on the console. Our project has been running on the console. So now we're going to run a project that is going to actually run directly on the browser, right? So it's going to be a mini project, random code generator. So we're going to build the project together. And the honest truth is, we've come a long journey. Is I really appreciate for as many that have followed through to this point. This is a huge one. So I just wanted to build this project so that we could kind of get our hands a little bit dirty with all we've learned so far. So let's see how far we can go with the mini projects.